In a pointed exchange at the White House press briefing, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt fielded tough questions from reporters regarding the administration's latest trade policy, a sweeping set of negotiations and tariffs aimed at addressing long-standing global trade imbalances. The press conference began with a question about whether countries involved in the negotiations could potentially lower their tariffs below the proposed 10% universal minimum. Leavitt firmly responded that while final decisions rest with President Trump, the administration is committed to implementing a baseline tariff of 10% as a starting point in all trade deals. This move, she emphasized, is part of a broader push to level the playing field for American manufacturers and workers. The conversation took a more complex turn when a reporter raised concerns about negotiating with countries like Vietnam, where labor costs are significantly lower. Would such countries be able to negotiate in good faith while maintaining an advantage through cheap labor? Leavitt acknowledged the reality of uneven labor markets, but clarified that the administration is taking a holistic approach. Different nations bring different labor conditions, skill sets, and economic structures to the table, and the president, along with his trade team, is taking all those variables into account. But the press secretary didn't stop at policy details. She made a powerful political point. Leavitt turned the spotlight on past statements made by top Democratic leaders, pointing out that the concerns now addressed by President Trump's administration are not new. In fact, Democrats were once some of the loudest voices demanding tougher trade enforcement. She cited a speech from 1996 in which Nancy Pelosi stood on the House floor and criticized China's trade practices. Pelosi asked how many American jobs would have to be lost, how large a trade deficit would have to become, and how much repression would be tolerated before the government would stand up to China. Leavitt connected that speech to the present day. President Trump is finally answering that call, 27 years later. She added that Pelosi and others now seem reluctant to admit that Trump's policies are addressing the very issues they used to rally against. Leavitt also reminded the press of Chuck Schumer's 2007 warning about America's worsening trade deficit and his call for immediate action to protect the nation's economic future. Well, she said, that action is happening now. Referencing Sherrod Brown's remarks from 2012 about how China's growing trade surplus cost American workers millions of jobs, Leavitt made it clear, this administration is not just talking, it's acting. She announced the upcoming 104% retaliatory tariff on Chinese imports, framing it as a bold and necessary step to protect American industry, ensure fair trade, and push back against decades of one-sided